Deep Blue Sea is a 1999 creature feature directed by Rennie Harlin. Scientists in an underwater research facility discover a cure for Alzheimer's disease by harvesting DNA from genetically modified sharks. But when a tropical storm damages the facility, causing it to flood, the super sharks begin to hunt down everyone within. But before we get into this Carcharodon compilation, I just want to ask that if you end up enjoying this video, then please think about hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. And if you do, make sure to hit the bell icon so you never miss any of my videos. It would really help me out. So thanks. Also, there will be full spoilers ahead, but if that doesn't bother you, then grab your smoked salmon flavoured popcorn and whip out your LL Cool spray as we dive into the Deep Blue Sea trilogy. So the movie begins with a wibbly Warner Brothers logo, before we see some young people having a jolly old time on a boat. Their good times peak, however, when the pant-melting attractiveness of the girl in the red bikini makes a bottle of red wine spill into the water, which looks a lot like blood, but it isn't actually blood, so it's very unlikely to attract any sharks. Unless the shark is a pisshead, of course, which this one unfortunately is. So everyone falls off the boat into the water. I was originally going to criticise everybody for falling off the boat, but to be honest, if it was me, I would have jumped so bloody far I wouldn't have even hit the water yet. So everyone tries to get back onto the boat in a panic as the shark gets closer and closer until... BAM! The shark is harpooned by Detective Miller from The Expanse, whose actual name in the movie is Carter, which is what I'll call him because he saved the young'uns like a champ. We then meet Dr. Susan something or other, and she's talking to Samuel L. Jackson, which I'm just going to shorten to Smule to save time. And hang on a sec, is that Dick Jones from RoboCop? It bloody isn't all! You know what, I've never actually noticed that was Ronnie Cox until I watched it this time round. And I've seen this movie more times than John Goodman's had hot meals. Anyway, Dr. Susan is trying to get these rich fellas to keep funding her research into curing Alzheimer's disease, but her results have been close but no cigar so far, so Smule is apprehensive about further funding, but she convinces him to come to the facility, which is called Aquatica, so he can see for himself just how close they are. So Dr. Susan and Smule arrive at the facility, and are greeted by Janice, who I'm just going to call Radish, because I want to. Then they watch Carter wrestle a license plate out of an anatomically inaccurate tiger shark's mouth. Carter makes it out of the water, then imparts some of his shark knowledge onto Smule.
They bite you. It's because they think you're a fat little seal. Or a rich soup.
Oh, Carter, you savage! You might as well have thrown him in the water with a bucket of chum. But then he'd go to jail, so I can see why you didn't. Radish then explains to Smule that they have 3 super sharks, all of which are mako sharks. They've got 2 smaller ones and 1 massive one, the enclosure of which they just stand right on the edge of. No, I think I'd rather cheese grate my elbows than stand there, thank you very much. Then, as the majority of the staff leave for the weekend, we see this fella in the background, who is actually the director of the movie. I know that because I watched the special features on the DVD. But we've got a few more characters to meet yet, the first of which is Stellan Skarsgård, who Radish describes as
the most brilliant man ever.
He's pissing into the wind. How brilliant can he be?
And why is he pissing in full view of everyone? Are there no toilets in Aquatica? Oh, and now he's being attacked by seagulls. Oh, yep, no, they're really getting him good. And now he's falling into the water. Man, he's really not having a good day. Don't worry, Stellan. I'm sure it's all uphill from here, mate. Then we meet Carter's bestie and resident tech man of Aquatica, Parappa the Rappaport, who is questioned by Carter about how the mako shark from the beginning managed to get out. Glass of Port tells him the fences reach 8 feet off the water, so surely the shark didn't jump it. But Carter isn't convinced, and he tells the sharks, "If I catch you bastards jumping that fence, I'm gonna ground you for a month. Yeah, and I'll take your phones off you and all." Aye, that'll teach him. We then get our first underwater look at the facility, and man, this would be a horrible place to be if there was some kind of emergency. So Smule goes to have a wee crack with Carter, and asks,
So, what exactly does a shark wrangler do?
Simple. If the sharks talk shit to anyone, I punch them in the dick. The last character to be introduced is the cook for the facility, played by LL Cool J, who I'm just going to call CJ. Oh, and he has a rather gobby parrot as a pet.
You got a big fat butt.
You fucking what, mate? Say that again and I'll smash you with a skillet. Then it's shark feeding time and the 2 smaller makos team up against the regular old fake tiger shark and rip it to pieces. Because it called the big mako Fat, you see, even though the big one's name is Fat Andy. And I'm just going to call the smaller ones Gravy and Le Fish. We then see that a tropical storm is due to hit the facility in the next few hours, so they start locking the place down and plan to capture Fat Andy so they can do their experiment before the storm hits. So everyone gathers in the fancy science room and waits for Carter to jump into the shark tank to fetch the fish, with Stellan saying,
"Carter, you copy? Carter?"
"I'm taking a dump. Give us a minute for fuck's sake." After his dump, Carter is swimming through the cage when he's attacked from both sides by the smaller makos. So he raises his gun at them and they swim away saying, "Leg it! Fin it!" Carter then opens the door to the cage and swims out into the darkness, which sets off my thalassophobia every bloody time I watch this bit. I mean, swimming out into the deep dark water is bad enough, but knowing there's a giant shark in there is probably the biggest fucking nope I can possibly think of. Pure fucking nope. Then the gang are at it again, trying to get through to Carter.
Carter, you copy? Carter, do you copy?
I've got an itchy nose, just give us a goddamn second, will ya? Carter then fools Fat Andy into attacking his gear, which he hung on the cage, which gives him time to trank it. But how the hell he managed to get it onto the boarding platform is anyone's guess. Anyway, Carter and the shark get lifted into the fancy science room, and Snort the Port says,
Did someone order the fish?
No, I ordered the lobster, and that was nearly an hour ago. I demand my crustacean post-haste! So they prep the shark for a bit of brain juice extraction, and it has a sudden jolt, with Carter saying,
Bad dreams?
Yeah, it's probably having a nightmare about humans sticking a big spike into its brain. So they extract the brain juice, and holy guacamole! The experiment worked! Everyone is well happy, and Stellan crouches down next to the shark to thank it for its contribution to science. Fat Andy is really chuffed that it was able to help, but then notices that Stellan has a really long fingernail on his right hand. So it offers to bite off the nail, but accidentally takes off the whole arm! What a terrible accident! And Stellan's like, oh no, it's bitten off me wanking arm! I've tried it with me left, but it just doesn't work! I just go all flaccid! Okay, I think that joke get in there. So they call an emergency medical evac helicopter, and boy do I feel sorry for those pilots, because this tropical storm is wilder than my hair. Anyway, they get Stellan outside and hook him up to the line from the helicopter. It begins to pull him up and he's so close that he can almost one-handedly reach them. But then the bloody mechanism malfunctions and poor old Stellan is dropped directly into the water below. What a fucking nightmare of a day this guy's had. But things go from bad to worse as the line suddenly starts getting pulled under the water, which forces the helicopter to crash into the communications tower. Everyone inside the facility gets tossed around a bit by the explosion, and CJ does exactly what I do in that situation and starts necking a bottle of wine. Aye, go on lad, get it down ya. The gang then notice something through the big window coming out of the darkness. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Nope. It's Fat Andy with poor Stellan on a stretcher in its jaws. So the shark tosses him at the big window and it starts to crack, with Stellan just looking really sad at everyone saying, I'm really sorry guys, but I don't think I'll make it to the Christmas party after all. Then before you know it, the big window smashes and a colossal fuckton of water begins to pour inside, with everyone running for the door going, ah! Elsewhere, CJ decides to take the stairs up to the next level, but he hears something coming down the stairs and says, Water? Is that you? Yes, it's me, and I've come to wash you away! Back to the gang, and they hear a load of banging from behind one of the big metal doors and say, Who's that? Gary? No, it's the rescue man. Yeah, that's right. I've come to rescue you. So open the door now and let me in. You will absolutely not regret it. But everyone thinks this smells a bit fishy, so they all run past the door and make it into the next room just before the hallway begins to fill with water. Then Smeal comes out with,
Is that a goddamn shark broke through that door?
Well, it wasn't the bloody rescue man, was it? Then Susan drops the bombshell that her and Stellan did some sneaky genetic engineering to make the sharks have bigger brains, but they didn't tell anybody about it because it was well illegal. And as you can imagine, everyone is pretty pissed off with her. Not cool, Susan. Not cool. Back to CJ, and he's being chased down a flooded hallway by Gravy the shark, which leads him into his kitchen, where he tries to coax the gobby parrot onto his arm before it gets eaten. But Gravy bursts out of the water and gobbles the parrot, saying, Got you foul-mouthed feathery fuck! Then it chases CJ into his oven, and in a brilliantly ironic twist, it manages to turn the gas on. What a hilariously awful situation to be in! But CJ ain't gonna give up that easy, so he axes his way through to the top oven, and jumps over the shark to the other side of the kitchen. Then he whips out his lighter, flings it towards the shark and says, Hasta la vista, Gravy. And boom! The shark is finished. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang find themselves in the wet pool room, but the mini-sub is proper buggered, so they can't use it to escape and they begin to lose hope. But Smeal is having none of it and gives an inspirational speech saying, Right everyone, here's the plan. In about 10 seconds or so, I'm going to get eaten by Fat Andy. Yeah, I know, it's going to suck, and the visual effects are going to be pretty wonky too, but we're just going to have to live with it. Well, except me, because I'll be dead. Right about now. Also, why are the visual effects so inconsistent? The shark snatching Smeal looks pretty bad, but the underwater shot of them ripping him apart seconds later looks great. Not that it matters, like it a cracking scene either way. So, with the wet pool being a no-go, the rest of the gang decide to take the risk of opening the door to the elevator shaft. So they open the door, but because the surface has been compromised, the pressure can't hold the wet pool in place. so the whole joint starts flooding at an alarming rate. Everyone tries to get up the ladder as quickly as possible as the elevator shaft starts filling with water and the burning elevator at the top is dropping bits of flaming debris down on them. Oh, and just in case that wasn't enough for them to worry about, Le Fish swims in to make sure that if they fall off the ladder, it'd be deadly as fuck. This has got to be one of the greatest elevator set pieces I have ever seen. It's so good! As they're climbing though, the facility starts to buckle from all the flooding and the ladder breaks, causing Radish to lose her grip and fall into the water. Carter tries to help her but she gets pulled under, before suddenly emerging in Le Fish's mouth, screaming before going back under for good. Man, it's a fairly harrowing death scene to be honest. And I love it! Then everyone hears banging from the door above them and thinks, oh, what now? This day has been really shit! Oh, it's CJ! Oh, thank feck for that. So he helps them up and for a brief moment they're out of harm's way. But they can't relax for long, because they're pretty close to the surface now with only one flooded stairwell in the way. So Port and Starboard suggests rerouting the emergency generators to the bilge pumps, so they can drain the stairwell and get the hell out of this death trap. Problem is, the controls are on the lower level, which is wetter than a whale's wet bits. But it's the only shot they've got, apart from this shot, in which Thomas Jane is also Christopher Lambert. So Carter and Papa Slapperport go for a dip and run into the soggy corpse of Stellan, who says, how's it going, fellas? I'm dead! Which freaks Carter the fuck out. Meanwhile, CJ finds an old video camera, and instead of saying his prayers, he decides to record a video on how to make the perfect omelette, which I'm going to explain right now in 7 easy steps. Number 1, bang the eggs in a pan, shells and all. Number 2, slam in some bacon but make sure you swear at it first. Number 3, snort a load of pepper then sneeze it into the pan. Number 4, drop in half a pint of milk still in the carton. Number 5, turn up the heat to the max. Number 6, put an oven glove on your left hand. Number 7, punch the pan as hard as you can with your right hand. Omelette done. And please, for the love of God, do not try this recipe at home. It only works in the movies. I know this because I tried it. And I cut me hand. Ow. Back to the fellas and they find the switch they need to flip. But out of nowhere, Fat Andy shows up and annihilates Frappa Cappuccino Port, leaving only a twitchy leg behind. So with their plan being royally fucked, Carter decides to get the hell out of there. Meanwhile, Susan has gone back to her office to collect the experiment data, but she runs into Le Fish, who is lurking somewhere in the dark water below. So she does what anyone would do in that situation. She strips down to her undies. And let's just say, be glad you can't see my right hand right now. Because I cut it when I punched that pan. Ow. So Susan, standing on her wetsuit, waits for Le Fish to strike, before jamming an electric cable into its mouth. Lucky for her, Le Fish is allergic to electricity, and perishes quickly. Also, does anyone else think that Saffron Burrows would have made a great Lara Croft back in the day? She was fine. Damn fine. Anyway, seeing as though the plan went to shit, there's only one option left. They're gonna have to swim to the surface. But they're gonna try and distract Fat Andy with some fire extinguishers attached to life jackets. So the room fills up with water, CJ gives them a blessing from the Bible but takes creative liberty with 1 or 2 bits. Then they're off, and luckily, Fat Andy takes the bait. So they make it to the surface, but just as they're catching their breath, CJ gets grabbed by Fat Andy! No! Bite its face, CJ! No, slap its ear! No, stick a finger up its nose or something! But he does the smarter option and stabs it in the eye with his cross, so it lets him go. Now at least everyone is out of the water, but Carter notices that the fences have been significantly lowered by the sinking facility. So they decide they're gonna have to find a way to kill Fat Andy before he escapes into the deep blue sea. That's the title of the movie, eh? Carter finds his harpoon gun from the beginning of the movie and fills a harpoon with dynamite, with the idea being to impale the beastie and then hook up the cable to a battery and boom! But Fat Andy is too far away, so Susan decides to squeeze strawberry ice cream sauce onto her hand from a bottle disguised as shrapnel. Because Fat Andy's favourite food is ice cream with strawberry sauce, you see, which is probably why he's so big. Anyway, Susan jumps in the water and gets the shark's attention, but when it charges her, she can't get out of the water. But don't worry, Susan, Carter is diving in to save you and... Oh no. Oh, I don't think that was supposed to happen. Oh, bugger. Then in one of the most brilliantly ludicrous scenes ever, Carter does an underwater flip over the attacking shark's head and grabs onto its fin. And then in a truly crowd-pleasing moment of heroism, CJ rocks up with the harpoon gun! Woo! So he fires it at the shark but accidentally impales Carter to the bloody thing. Carter shouts at CJ to blow it right before Fat Andy finally breaks through the fence. So CJ hits the battery and boom! The shark goes kablamo. CJ looks relieved that it's finally over, but sad that Carter didn't make it. But he did! Yay! Then we see the weekend crew turn up in a boat saying, oh man, our weekend was boring as fuck. What you two guys been up to? End of movie. Well, I've got to say that I've got a huge bias here because Deep Blue Sea is one of my favourite movies of all time. Yeah, it's got flaws, but I just love the movie so much that they don't bother me in the slightest. As far as I'm concerned, Deep Blue Sea is 90s creature feature perfection. Deep Blue Sea 2 is a 2018 creature feature directed by Darren Scott. A paranoid billionaire develops a serum to unlock the human brain's full potential, but the enhanced bull sharks the serum is derived from don't take kindly to his tampering with Mother Nature. So the movie begins with these two buggers doing some illegal shark fishing off the coast of South Africa, and one of them says, "Come on, let's take a cheeky photo to celebrate our heinous deeds because we're a right pair of shits, us two." Now say cheese. Cheese! What was that? Oh, were you chewing on that knife again? No, I was to cut my tongue on my beard again. But then they hear someone on the radio saying, "Warning.
If you can see orange smoke on your horizon, you are in danger."
Does that look like orange smoke to you? Nah, it's more of a tangerine colour. I reckon we'll be fine. Then something gives the boat a bash and the baddies see a big shark swimming nearby.
That's why we're out here, baby! That's solid gold!
Gold? Are these fellas blind or something? I bet they couldn't even tell the difference between a lemon shark and a lime shark. Or is it scientifically known? Negaprion citrus fishes. But they soon notice it isn't just one shark, but 5 of them, and they're swimming towards them in a V formation.
Have you seen sharks swim like that?
Only when they're intent on killing shark fishermen. Which I don't know about you, but I've just quit being a shark fisherman, like, right now. Yeah, me too. So, we'll be okay. Right? Theoretically, yes. Quick, get back on the boat! No. That's exactly what they'll expect us to do. I say we flail around like a fish in distress. That'll surely confuse and drive them away. Oh no! My peerless knowledge of sharks has been subverted yet again! Then they give him the chomp too, leaving him thinking,
I have no limbs, so I sink. Goodbye.
Then the fella who fired the flare rocks up to their boat, but the sharks are still around, so surely they'll eat him next. Then, plot twist for the muckers, he clicks his little red beeper, then the sharks turn around and ignore him. Just like every lady I try and speak to on a night out. But they don't know what they're missing. Because I've got an absolutely massive collection of Magic the Gathering cards. Then we get the Deep Blue Sea equivalent of a James Bond credit sequence.
Drowning in the deep blue sea.
It's awfully cheesy, but at least we get to see this lady swimming with a great white saying, "Excuse me, Mr. Shark, mind if I hitch a lift?"
I know what is, lass. Where to?
"Land, please."
Okie dokie, I'll drop you off in the shallows. Then I'm off to pester Blake Lively for a bit.
The lady, it turns out, is part of an oceanic institute researching sharks. I'm going to call her Clementine, because this video seems to have a citrus fruit thing for some reason. Anyway, she's giving a lecture to these students saying, "So if there's anything to take away from today's lecture, let it be this. Don't be a dickhead. Any questions?"
Is there any type of shark you wouldn't swim with?
Bull sharks.
Because I saw one in a china shop, and to say it made a mess of the place would be a massive understatement. Once the lecture finishes, the students leave, and this fella walks over to Clem and says, "Hello, my name is Mr. G. Rapefruit." "I'm not going to call you that. What's your first name?" "Jerry." "Okay, Jerry, how can I help you?" "Well, you see, my boss is doing illegal experiments on sharks and needs an expert to question both his morality and methods." "Right, and what do I get out of it?" "A £20 gift card for Primark." 20 quid? You're having a laugh, aren't you?" "Oh dear, I knew that wasn't a sufficient incentive. That's why I'm throwing in this little cat piggy bank." "Oh, it's so cute!" "Jerry, you've got yourself a deal." Elsewhere we see the Red Beeper Man, who I'm going to call Richard D. Beeperman, or Dick for short. And he's returning to this movie's equivalent of the Aquatica facility, which appears to have had a bit of a downgrade, so let's call this one Aquaticac. Anyway, he parks up the boat, and sharks, and meets his mate Fred, who's just got out of bed, or at least that's what he said. So Dick tells him all the bad news. The sharks broke out last night, his boat's got a drinking problem, and if that's not bad enough, his shoes have developed a squeak he just can't get rid of. Well, they do say bad things come in threes. Dick goes down into the underwater part of the facility to confront their resident tech guy about the shark escape. I'm going to call this guy Lal Gimmer. So Dick says to him,
"What's the most important rule here?"
Don't scowl while wearing a vest? Okay, what's the second most important rule? Don't touch your beef jerky? Okay, right, let me rephrase the question. Do we want our sharks to escape? Well, no, of course not.
Then how do you explain 5 sharks going for a
Goddamn choice swim!
Dude, I seriously don't know, but while you're mad at me, I might as well be honest. I did take some of your beef jerky.
You son of a bitch!
Wait a minute.
They've dug a bloody hole under the fence! How on earth did they manage that?
I have no idea, but it definitely has nothing to do with me giving one of them a shovel for its birthday last week. You gave him a shovel? Jesus, topsy-turvy Christ, Lal Gimmer! Is there anything else you want to tell me to piss me off? Yeah, you have squeaky shoes. Ah! Meanwhile, Clem meets up with Jerry at the dock, and we're also introduced to newlyweds Mr. and Mrs. Chum. Oh, they're so in love. Only sharks could tear them apart. They're going to Aquatic Act 2 because they're neuroscientists. Also, I can't help but notice that Jerry is wearing another yellow tie, but with a different pattern to the last one. The bastard. Anyway, they head out on the boat to their doom. Oh, I mean, to the facility of doom. When they arrive, they're greeted by Fred, who takes them down below, and we see Dick coming out of the wet pool saying, "Which one of you bollocks forgot to put the DPV on charge before bed last night? Hey, what do you mean it was me?" Oh yeah, it was me, wasn't it?
I think you need a new DPV.
And I think you need to shut up, whoever you are. Who are you? I'm Clem, and I was invited by your boss because I like sharks. Then Clem notices what kind of sharks they have.
Those are bull sharks.
Well, I hope you don't have any fine china knocking about, because they'll smash the shit out of it. Then the big boss man walks in and says,
"Welcome. I see you met our test subjects."
"My name is Anthony Durable, but everyone around here calls me Durant. Like the Pokemon. Like the what?"
You must be
Uninterested in small talk.
That's an unusual name, but fair enough.
"Would you all please follow me topside? I have something I'd like to show you."
Dude, I swear, if Durant shows off his collection of Pokemon cards again, I'm gonna quit. So everyone heads out into the fresh air and Durant says to Lal Gimmer, "What flaps around in the water like a bell end?" "Ah, you do! You didn't even give me time to answer, you shit!" Thinking he's in danger, Clem dives in to help. But oh no, the sharks are heading towards them! Surely they are done for! Nope, Dick beeps his beeper, then the sharks beep off like good little beeps. When they get out, Clem says, "How'd you do that, you mad bastard?" And Durant says, "I'll explain later, but in the meantime..."
"Please put on some dry clothes, and we'll reconvene in the wet lab in an hour."
Yeah, that wet lab better not be as wet as it sounds. If I get changed only to end up soggy again, I'm going to be very grumpy. Then we see our resident bug steel type in his private quarters, and he's got a secret stash of chili sauce of varying hotness. He gives one a shake, then pops the lid and thinks, "Okay, you can do this. You promised yourself you'd build up a tolerance, so next time you share spicy chicken wings with everyone, you won't embarrass yourself." I mean, how the hell was I supposed to know what a ghost pepper is? Anthony, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm just sat on my bed, brushing my hair. Fuck. Dick told me the sharks dug a tunnel yesterday. That's how they got out. Ha! Clever little buggers. Right, once we've done our science shit, it looks like we're having sushi for dinner. Then we see this shark eavesdropping on them thinking, "I'm going to tell everyone about his chili sauce stash, then he'll look like a fool. A damn fool." Oh, I love eavesdropping, I do. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Chum are in the kitchen, and this bottle of water is like, "Linda. Linda. Linda! What? You're going to get eaten by sharks and so is your husband." "Oh yeah? Well, you're just a bottle of water." "Why'd you have to go and make it personal?" Sometime later, everyone convenes in the wet lab and Durant says,
"Now, I'm sure you're all curious as to why I asked you here."
"Something to do with sharks, I reckon, Chief." "Well, yes, but it's much more than that. Something to do with intelligence-enhancing drugs, I reckon, Chief." "Why are you going to spoil this for me?" "Yes, I'm developing a super serum which increases human intelligence, and I'm testing it on these sharks." "Well, that's mental, but please do continue."
"Artificial intelligence is becoming stronger every year, and they will destroy us."
"You've been watching Terminator on repeat, haven't you?" "Well, maybe I have, but if I'm right, my serum will keep humanity on top."
So you're the savior of the entire human race.
"I'll be the entire human race -1 if you don't shut up." "So what the hell do you need us for then?" "Well, not really, I just wanted to show off my sharks and that." Anyway, it's time for the Lady Shark's monthly health check, so they bring it up in the wet pool. While Durant talks with the chums, Clem has a word with another guy who works there who's a shark doctor or something. I'm going to call him Buttons, because his top has buttons on the shoulder, which is a bit weird. Anyway, Clem is inquiring about Durant's fortunes, and Button says,
Dude built a multi-billion-dollar empire out of nothing.
"Impossible! You can't build anything out of nothing because nothing is intangible! Don't listen to him, Clem, he's full of shit!" Meanwhile, on the surface, Dick's boat is absolutely hammered, and drunkenly drives itself into the power generator saying, "Who says it's dangerous to drink and drive? See, I made it all the way home." Then Dick walks outside and is all like, "Oh, but what have you done now, you pisshead?" "Oh, aye, mate. Someone's knocked over these barrels, eh? But it wasn't me. No, it was not me. Also, you've got squeaky shoes, mate." Back in the lab, Buttons is giving the Lady Shark her health check and says, "So, any changes to your medical history I should know about?" "Well, actually, Doctor, I'm pregnant." "Oh, congratulations." "You won't be saying that when they're ripping you to pieces." "What was that?" "Oh, nothing. Also, can you please have a look in my throat while I'm here? I think I got a bone stuck in there last week." So he props open its mouth and reaches inside. "Gah. Gah. Something wrong?" Go, please, shoot! Oh, she nearly bit my arm off like Stellan in the first movie. So in a panic, Fred lowers the shark back into the water. Elsewhere, we see Jerry on his laptop emailing his mates about Durant's secret stash of chili sauce. And oh my god, the bastard's even got yellow earphones! What is this guy's problem? Then the generator up top explodes, which causes the elevator to malfunction, so the humans can't get out. Meanwhile, Jerry is wandering the corridors looking confused, when a shark starts slamming the walls, causing them to burst open, sweeping Jerry off his feet, and not in the romantic sense. Clem notices that the hallway outside the wet lab is filling up with water. Then the corpse of Jerry pops up with his face all ravaged beyond recognition, but his yellow tie is still intact. The absolute bloody cheek of this guy! Durant says,
If all the sharks are out in the lagoon, who did that to Craig?
Craig? Sorry, I meant Jerry. And Clem says, oh shit, I don't think Lady Sharky's preggers no more. Yep, them baby sharks are inside Aquatic Hack and they're all like... So with the elevator out of order, someone's going to have to swim to the surface using the DPV and call for help on the satellite phone. Clem volunteers, but Dick is like, I don't think so. There's no way I'm letting you risk that cleavage. But by the time he's done admiring her curves, they realise that Fred's taken off into the wet pool himself. They watch him through the big window, but then one of the sharks rams into him, knocking him unconscious, saying, oh, sorry fella, I didn't see you there. So Dick dives in to save him. Fortunately, he gets him back into the wet lab and Clem manages to revive him. But then the divvy immediately goes and sticks his head over the wet pool and gets it bitten off. Poor Fred. He lost his head and now he's dead. And the shark ate it between two slices of bread. It has to be said it was well fed.
Do we have any more weapons? Bang sticks, a spear gun?
Bastard swords? Miniguns? Tactical nukes? Nope, all we have is a bottle of water in the kitchen. Oh, I wouldn't bother. That bottle of water has a mean streak about 1.5 inches wide. Then Dick hears some unusual creaking and says,
We're losing pressure control.
Right before the wet pool erupts and the whole room fills with water. But we don't really get to see it because it would have cost way too much for the budget they had. So everyone gets separated and swept all over the place. But it's clearly just the same corridor from different angles with a different colour filter over it. We've got a blue corridor, a red corridor, a green corridor, and it's been a while since we've referenced a citrus fruit, so let's have an orange corridor as well. So everyone shuffles around in despair because apparently no one thought there was even the slightest chance of this underwater facility becoming flooded. Oh, and Linda's decided to take a nap because she's fucking lazy. Durant in particular is thinking, damn, this water is freezing. Good job I kept a vial of chili sauce in my pocket for emergencies. Oh yeah, warm them cockles, you spicy treat. Then he bumps into Clem and Dick, the latter of which is about 3 foot smaller than the last time we saw him. Anyway, Durant tells them that if they can reach the filtration room, then they might be able to climb up through the airshaft to the surface. Meanwhile, Mr. Chum finds himself chased by the baby sharks and ends up hanging off a pole while they try and bite his bum. Thankfully, they leave him alone and go and pester Lal Gimmer and Buttons, who get cornered in the living quarters. Lal Gimmer manages to climb up on the top bunk, but there's nowhere for Buttons to go, so he shuts himself inside the shower, thinking, oh well, at least I can give my hair a good wash while I'm here. Then the water level starts rising and it pours over the top of the glass door. So his hair does get a good wash, except he gets ravenous baby sharks instead of shampoo. When I was a kid, I used to be afraid that there was a shark in the bathtub, and that weasels would eat my feet if I dangled them off the sofa. Sounds mental now, but it made sense at the time. Back to the others and they find the filtration room, but that bastard Durant locks Clem out and breaks the door handle because he doesn't want her grassing on him when they get out. Dick is well pissed off and gives him a schmack. Then he tells Clem he'll come back for her, before him and Durant start making their way up to the surface. Elsewhere, that lazy bugger Linda finally wakes up from her nap and finds a locked door between herself and her hubby. But then she starts getting chased by the baby sharks, and instead of finding a way to evade them, she just stands in front of the locked door and gets pulled under, before popping back up with half a face like, goodbye my love, I hope you live a long and happy life. But if you ever remarry, I'll haunt you. Back to Durant and Dick, and they've made it to the surface. Dick picks up the satellite phone and says, hello, Mr. Satellite? Who's this? It's Dick from Aquatic Hack. What do you want? A pair of shoes that don't squeak. But that's beside the point. We need help. No bother, pal. I'll send help now. Just keep an eye out for it, Meanwhile, Lal Gimmer bumps into Mr. Chum and he's all like, where's Linda? The baby shark's got her. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sure she's in a better place. How is a shark's stomach a better place? Oh, hey, there's Clem trying to blowtorch a door open. But then those baby shark shits turn up again. So Clem tells the fellas to escape up the airshaft while she laughably holds them back with a blowtorch. She does such a piss-poor job, though, that most of them just ignore her and follow the guys. Back up top, Dick demands a key from Durant, for a reason which will become clear later. But he doesn't want to give it up.
Give me the goddamn key, or I swear to God I will throw you to the sharks.
Please don't.
Are you feeling froggy?
Ribbit. Then he gives them the key and Dick says he's going back for the others, only to hear Lal Gimmer's voice coming from the air vent. So he opens it up and pulls out Lal Gimmer, but when he lifts out Mr. Chum, he's been bitten in half, saying, usually I'd have something clever to say, but I'm only half the man I used to be. Then we see Clem swimming out of the facility via the wet pool. She reaches the surface and somehow manages to swim another 30 feet with the shark right behind her and still manages to get out. I'm surprised she was able to swim at all under the weight of that plot armour.
Coast Guard!
Are you kidding me? How the hell are we supposed to all fit on that? Then a shark bursts out of the water and eats the drone, leaving Lal Gimmer saying,
"Why can't we catch a break? Just one break! Hell, I take half a break!"
"What you need, sir, is a Kit Kat." Oh, I do love a Kit Kat, me, like. It's got to be chunky, though. And preferably caramel. So with the dock sinking, Dick says their only shot is to try and swim for the boat in the distance. That boat's the pisshead who got us into this mess. Look, he's probably sobered up by now, hungover and full of regret. Plus, we've got no choice.
Oh, come on, there's got to be another way.
Hey, Lal Gimmer, what flaps around in the water like a bell end? Ugh, I do.
Satisfying, right?
So they make a mad dash for the boat, but Lal Gimmer gets pulled under by a shark. What a shame. Then one of them starts heading towards Durand, so he dives into the water to square off against the shark and says,
"Who is your daddy and what does he do?"
And it seems like it worked, until the shark bursts out of the water with Durant in its jaws before giving him a first-class chomp. But it ain't over yet, as Clem and Dick get to the boat, but the shark is heading right for them. It leaps out of the water with its jaws agape and then BAM! It takes 2 flares to the gob, which is apparently enough to kill a super shark these days. Oh, and surprise for the muckers, because Lal Gimmer is still alive. Yay! I guess. Then Dick whips out that little red key and unlocks a box with it, which turns out to be a self-destruct button for the whole facility. And Aquatic Cat goes kablamo! And so the day is saved, but not really, because there's still super intelligent bull sharks on the loose. And they say Dick still has squeaky shoes to this day. End of movie. Well, although it may feel like a low-budget retread of the first Deep Blue Sea, I think this is a fun little sequel. Despite its obvious limitations, of course. Sure, it's not packed with many new ideas. Well, I thought the baby sharks were a cool addition, and some great shark kills definitely help compensate for the lack of originality. It's not a patch on the first movie, but I still enjoyed it. I mean, it's got a shark eavesdropping on a human conversation, so what more could you really ask for? Deep Blue Sea 3 is a 2020 creature feature directed by John Pogue. A marine biologist studying the effect of climate change on sharks ends up fighting for her life as her floating village becomes besieged by genetically enhanced bull sharks. So the movie begins with these 3 sharks swimming about being up to no good, and they've got their eyes set on this floating village off the coast of Mozambique, which looks about as structurally sound as a skyscraper made of Jenga blocks. Then we get the title card and oh, that's not a good sign. Awful title card aside, we're introduced to our protagonist Emma. And hang on, is that Malcolm's friend from Malcolm in the Middle? Bloody hell, she grew up, didn't she? Said that's a rare thing to happen, but anyway, I'm obviously going to call her Cynthia. And she lives on this nearly abandoned floating village where she's studying how climate change is affecting ocean life.
The residents were some of the first victims of rising sea levels.
Wow, it's almost as if building a village on the water was a bad idea. Who'd have thought? Then she shows us the amazing sea life in the area. We have yellowfish, stingrays with blue spots, and even the odd turtle for good measure. But what she's here to study is the sharks, specifically great whites, one of which she's made friends with, and calls Sally.
Hi, Cynthia. What's your favourite HM in Pokemon?
Ooh, I don't know. There's so many to choose from.
Guess what mine is? I'll give you a clue. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to be that rough. Anyway, I'm gonna go and swim non-stop for the rest of my life, otherwise I'll suffocate. Bye!
Unfortunately for Cynthia, her HMO 6 has given her a nasty HMO 1, so they decide to get out of the water ASAP. We then get to see Cynthia's best mate properly, who looks a bit like a budget version of The Rock, so I'm going to call him Pebble. He tells her that she needs to be more careful around Sally, but she's like, nah, she's just a big carnivorous fish which could kill me with ease. Stop worrying.
I need a beer. You coming?
Now you're speaking my language. Then we see this big ship, who was caught the mother of the bull sharks we saw swimming towards the village.
It's her. It's Bella.
How do you know? Because it's got Carl Durant's head sticking out of its mouth. Well, we better find the other 3 before anyone else loses a head. I'm going to call this fella Squed, on account of his quadrilateral features, and his boss is going to be called Da Guy. So Squed says, I think I know where they're headed.
Bella was a good mother. She was taking her kids to the best all-you-can-eat buffet in town.
Well, I hope she booked a table. It's always full on a Thursday. Back to Cynthia, and she's testing out Pebble's reflexes.
Yep.
I wonder how many times they had to film that until he caught that beer. That was me, I would have caught it with me gob, flicked the bottle cap off with me tongue and chugged it in one go. Probably. So Cynthia goes to talk with the rest of her team. We've got the resident tech guy, who I'm going to call Ricketts, and this cheerful young lady who operates their underwater scanny thing, who says,
I still can't find him. Who? Nemo.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, she's totally going to be called Nemo. Anyway, Cynthia says to Ricketts, "Have you managed to solve climate change yet?" Eh?
But that's not good enough, Spin.
"I want you to personally sort it out by the end of the day." "But no buts, asses or bums. Just do it." We're also introduced to the last two native residents of the village, one of which is having a jolly old sing while chopping some peppers, because it makes them taste better apparently. "Oh, hey dear, what's for dinner tonight?" "Well, I know you're sick of fish, so I've got something special today. Redfish." Later that evening, and everyone has gathered for a nice meal, with Mr. Fisherman asking Ricketts why he's a vegan.
Responsible and sustainable food choices are not only good for the environment, they're good for your health too.
Says the guy who looks like he's suffering from every nutrient deficiency known to man.
On that, we agree. Shots?
"Nah, lass, I'm on the shippy." So Nemo lines up some shot glasses, but Ricketts blurts out,
You are so sexy. Wait, did I just say that out loud?
"Oh dear, even his social filter is deficient." "Eat some fish, you fool, it's good for you." The next day, Cynthia throws a bag of rubbish in the trash compactor because that'll become relevant at the end of the movie, before Pebble notices Squed's ship in the distance heading their way. When it arrives, Squed gets off the boat and it turns out he already knows Cynthia.
They went to grad school together.
Wait, together or together?
Somewhere between two and together.
Together.
So Cynthia gives him a hug and says,
What are you doing here?
"Talking to you? But that's beside the point. I'm looking for some genetically altered sharks that escaped from a mad scientist's lab who was terrified that artificial intelligence was going to destroy humanity, so he created a superhuman serum from shark brain juice, but then the sharks ate him because he was a dickhead." Oh, Squed, you and your vivid imagination. "No, I'm being completely serious." "Shut up and come inside for a drink, you mad bastard." So she takes Squed and Guy inside and introduces them to the gang. This is Pebble. He looks a bit like The Rock, but not as big. This is Ricketts. He has everything wrong with him. And last but by no means the least annoying, we have Nemo. She doesn't stop smiling. Ever.
What are you looking to find?
3 bulls.
Well, you won't find them at sea, will you? 'Cause they'll be on land in a field with some cows and grass and that.
Sorry about him. He's very unwell. So these bull sharks you're looking for, how dangerous are they? On a scale from Goomba to Liquor, they're a basilisk. Jesus, hosepipe malfunction, Christ! What are we gonna do? Nemo suggests checking their shark radar. So they do, but no bull sharks show up on it, so Pebble says,
There you have it. I guess that's goodbye and good luck.
"Why does your goodbye sound suspiciously like do one?" So Squed invites Cynthia onto their boat so he can show her his shark brain collection, and he offers her a drink. "I'm afraid we only have water, but it comes in 2 delicious flavours, hot and cold. I'll have a cold water, please, because I'm not insane." He then shows her a shark brain and says,
Just trying to figure out if I can learn anything from a brain.
"Have you tried asking it?" "I have, but it never gives me a straight answer. Damn thing keeps outsmarting me." He then asks Cynthia not to go into the water while the bull sharks are on the loose. But she says no because Squed works for a big company and big company bad. Oh, and we get a drive-by shark eavesdrop for good measure.
Spying on you.
So the shark hunters get ready to dive, but Cynthia's already down there.
Careful. There are sharks around you.
"Thanks for that, Nemo. I do have eyes." Once the hunters are in the water, Guy says, "Right, if you spot one of those bull sharks, let me know and I'll shoot it with my underwater Nerf gun."
Hey, boss, this fish is looking at me funny and I don't like it.
"Oi, fish bastard! Stop looking at Ben like that or I'll nerf you."
Thanks, boss.
"You're welcome, Ben." But oh no, it looks like one of the bull sharks is sneaking up on Cynthia. But oh no, it's only Squed, who says, and she says, Then Nemo lets them know that she's picked up one of the bull sharks on the scanner. "Look alive, you soggy soldiers." "Hang on, where's Jeff?" "Ah, there he is." "Oh no, it's only half a Jeff."
Half a Jeff, PPV and half a Jeff. Can he stand on his legs? Can he fuck? He's half a Jeff. Look out, here comes half a Jeff.
So everyone gets out of the water and reconvenes in the meeting room to discuss what to do next, with Guy saying, "Right folks, I've come up with a new plan, and this one is foolproof." "Okay, what is it?" "It's exactly the same as the old plan." "How is that foolproof?" "Well, the sharks aren't going to expect us to do the exact same thing twice now, are they?" Then Pebble notices the ammunition they're packing.
What you got there, fellas?
"Well, these make shark go to sleep, these make shark go boom. Simple."
I want to know when your shark problem became our shark problem.
"When the sharks showed up here, you dumbass." So everyone gets back in the water and Guy says, "I don't want anyone to get bitten in half, okay? I want an arm or a leg off at the most. You got that?"
Yes, boss.
And it ain't long before one of the beasties shows up on the scanner, so Squed lures it into the cove. He loads up his sleep dart but misses the damn thing because he's crap. Lucky for him, this shark is narcoleptic, and it falls asleep halfway through biting him. Cynthia and Guy manage to get him out of the water, and he whinges like a right baby over his tiny little puncture wounds. I've had worse shark bites than that. I've never even been bit by one. Elsewhere, we see Mr. Fisherman doing what he does best, wearing a hat incorrectly. But then his rod gets snagged, which isn't something any man wants to happen. So he dives in to cut the line free, only to find a hungry bull shark heading right towards him, leaving him thinking, oh man, if I manage to kill this shark, then we can finally have something different for dinner. Fish! A short while later, and Mrs. Fisherman notices his boat floating around with him nowhere to be seen. So Pebble tows it in with his Pebble-mobile, and they find Mr. Fisherman's severed arm caught up in a fishing net. Poor bugger. I always knew fishing would cost him an arm and a leg. Cynthia wants to know whether Squid was telling porkies about the sharks, so she asks Ricketts if he can hack their boat's GPS or something and find out where they came from. So he does, but confesses that the process is
not entirely legal.
Oh, he's a criminal! Send him to jail! Then we'll see how long he lasts without eating meat. Anyway, they find out that the boat followed the sharks all the way from the Aquaticac facility in Deep Blue Sea too. So Cynthia goes to confront Squid about this, but as soon as she gets on his boat, the bull sharks start ramming the hull.
They're going to bust a hole straight through the observation window.
So against all common sense, Squid and Cynthia go down to the lab where the window is about to break. The guy tells his men to equip the boom darts, and Pebble ain't very happy about it.
Hey! If one of those shots hits over here, you're going to take this entire village down!
Which would be an unimaginable tragedy! A whole 5 people would have to be relocated to somewhere safer to live!
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Squid realises that the sharks just want their friend back, but he doesn't want to release it because it lightly bit him earlier and he holds a grudge. So he aims his boomstick at it and says,
Back the fuck off.
Oh no, he's got a boomstick, lads! Let's book it! So they swim off and Cynthia can't believe they understood the threat. So she demands some answers, and Squid says, I already told you, but you didn't believe me. Then he quickly goes over the plot of Deep Blue Sea 1 and 2, which has all led to their current predicament. This actually ties all 3 movies together quite nicely, if I do say so myself. Cynthia isn't very happy that Squid is working for a company who wants to further super shark research, so she tells him to go lick a kipper.
That is the most valuable animal on the planet.
Nah, I think we all know a more valuable animal, don't we, Ken? Oh, that's awfully nice of you. Aye, I reckon a solid gold elephant would be worth a few bob. Back in the village, Squid tries to justify his actions, but she gives him a smack in the chops, which I'm not quite sure he deserved. Then he goes and has himself a sulk, until the guy turns up and is like, bad move telling her who we work for, mate. Now I'm gonna have to go and do something crazy. That's right, I'm gonna go and shout at some astroturf. Up yours, you artificial green bastard! The shark hunters prepare for yet another dive, but this time Pebble notices they've got a suspicious-looking metal case with them.
What's in the box?
Ricketts says it's probably just a packed lunchbox, but they ignore him because he's an idiot. Pebble wants to know what's in it though, so they send their underwater drone to spy on them, which they pilot directly behind them. Nemo gets the drone feed on the monitor and sees that the case contained a big old bomb. Good lord, if that thing goes off it won't just kill all the fishes, but it'll prematurely sink our already sinking village. And to make matters worse, Cynthia finds out that the guy's men have cut their internet cable too, so they can't even watch funny cat videos before bed. So she says we've got to get rid of that bomb, and to find a way to stop the bull sharks, or it'll be...
Seamageddon.
Nobody wants Seamageddon, or a spunktastrophe, or even worse, a jizpocalypse. Cynthia goes again to confront Squid about this, and to her surprise, he doesn't know about the bomb either. But then the guy steps out from the shed he was stood waiting in for some reason. Oh, I guess it's time to reveal my true identity. My first and middle names are Barry and Edison. B.A. de Guy. Bad guy! That's right, Father Muckers. Now it's time to explode some shit. Well, that was an underwhelming explosion.
That's what she said.
Yeah, very good, Ken. Very good. There we go, that's better.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's enough now.
That's what she said.
I said that's enough now! Cynthia and Squid have a wee scuffle with Bad Guy and his cronies, before he sends her flying with a well-aimed shot. So the village is on its last legs now, and Ricketts and Nemo find themselves trapped in this flooding hut. But there's clearly a window there they can escape through, so they're not even trying, are they? Cynthia is doing surprisingly well after being blown up, and says to Pebble that she'll go and defuse the bomb because she has no experience in doing so, while the ex-military man is relegated to standing around scowling while holding a blue pole. Bad Guy sees her about to dive and says to his henchmen,
You know what to do.
Oh my god, I don't actually know what he wants me to do, but I better do something or he'll be really mad at me. Squid knows what he meant though, and begs him not to hurt Cynthia, but he's like,
You have a choice to make, boss. Stay on the ship and collect your check.
Or you could dive off the ship into the jaws of one of the bull sharks. I know which one I'd choose. Wow, I did not expect him to choose that option.
Cynthia is shocked and saddened by the death of the guy she spent the last hour confronting, berating and assaulting, but there ain't time to grieve, so she dives down to get the bomb. Bad guy then challenges Pebble to a tough guy fight, while Ricketts and Nemo flee from one of the sharks by climbing up to higher ground, which they should have bloody done from the get-go. And we get this really embarrassing scene where Ricketts awkwardly tells her how much he likes her, while looking like a cross-eyed madman, and she just looks disgusted.
When we get out of this, I'd really like to hang out with you some more.
Jesus, dude, that was some pathetic friend zone level shit right there.
Then a shark bursts through the floor and kills him. Good. Back to the fight, and Bad Guy gives Pebble a Jean-Claude Van Damme good spin kick, and he responds with a shot to the nuts.
Alright, now mummy daddy button.
What are you doing, man? The baddie laid down his gun so you could have an honourable fight and you punch him in the balls. You deserve to lose for that, Pebble.
And lose he does. That is until Bad Guy leaves his weakest of henchmen to finish him off because he's a muppet. Pebble obviously kicks this guy's ass and finishes him off by holding him up so a shark can bite his head off. It's very stupid, but it looks cool, so I'll let it off. Meanwhile, Cynthia's found the bomb, but she gets attacked by a baddie who is about to pull off her mask and drown her, before Sally shows up and eats him.
Yay, my friendly great white shark now has a taste for human flesh. I'm gonna get out the water now.
But before she can, the bull sharks turn up, so she holds the bomb up to keep them at bay.
Because apparently the sharks are smart enough to know what a bomb is, but not smart enough to just leave the area.
Anyway, Cynthia asks Pebble to create a distraction so she can get away from the sharks. So he and Mrs. Fisherman toss the headless henchman into the water. A short time later, Cynthia emerges from the water minus the bomb, and Bad Guy's boat starts leaving. Then they watch as he steps out with his detonator in his hand and says, "Goodbye, you shits. I pushed this switch with no regrets whatsoever." Nope, no regrets. None whatsoever. So that's the baddies taken care of. Now all we need to do is stop the sharks.
So how will we find those monsters? They're not monsters, we did this to them.
What do you mean we did this to them? You didn't! Cal Durant in Deep Blue Sea 2 did! Or are you just speaking on behalf of the whole human race now?
Anyway, Cynthia wants to use the GPS beacon from the shark's dead mother, Bella, so they can lure them into the cove with it attached to the drone, and blow them up with their last 2 explosive darts. This plan almost immediately goes to shit though, because Cynthia drives the bloody thing into a fishing net. So Pebble has to go and fetch it, but the sharks turn up and he's left with no other choice than to go out with a bang. Literally. Cynthia's well sad that he's dead, but oh shit, Bad Guy's back, and he's extra mad and extra crispy. He gives her a good slice and a kick before trying to drown her, but Mrs. Fisherman distracts him long enough for Cynthia to grab his knife and stab him in the chest. You think a knife to the heart's enough to stop me? Well, you'd be right. But it ain't over yet, as there's still one shark left. So Cynthia decides to jump into the water and lure it into the trash compactor.
See, I told you it was important, didn't I?
The shark follows her in, but once she gets to the back, she finds the door is stuck so she can't get out. And the trash compactor is sinking. Thankfully, she manages to get the door open just enough to wiggle an arm out, and before she gets submerged, presses the button and says,
"You're terminated, fucker."
Then boom! The shark goes big squash kablamo. So the day is saved and the 2 surviving ladies leave the sinking village to the mercy of the ocean, until they find a cupboard floating in the water which has a Nemo in it. Yay, I guess. Well, at least she can now find herself a fella who she can take to a steakhouse without him having a hissy fit. End of movie. And there we have it, folks. While I do think Deep Blue Sea 3 is a decent step up in quality from the second movie, it's still far from the pure popcorn entertainment of the first. On the plus side, it's got a unique setting, some decent action and shark kills, and I like how it tied all 3 movies together too. What lets the film down though is its characters, most of which just aren't particularly likeable. In fact, I ended up liking the villain more than the protagonist, which I don't think was what they intended. It doesn't ruin the movie or anything, but the writing is noticeably poor, and I do wish it wasn't so preachy with its environmental messaging, but oh well, whatever happened to subtlety, eh? So, the Deep Blue Sea trilogy, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you loathe it? Let me know in the comments below while I put this jumper over me head.
It's dark in here, like.